is that I feel like we end up coddling officers. We end up putting a handicap on them and preventing them from striving to try harder, or be better, or to live up to the expectations of, I guess you would say, what the citizens say we should be living up to, in a sense, right?
Yeah, but it's very difficult for people to understand, right? So I talked to Sergeant Mattingly,
Mm-hmm.
right? He was the one that got shot at the front door.
Right.
Now, all the officers were cleared, but what people don't get an insight on
But
is
just
what the
because you're
officer.
clear doesn't mean you're not wrong, though.
Right, right, but it means that. Well, first of all, well, this is what it means. You didn't commit a crime, right? Because you're
Mm,
innocent until proven guilty. So
true.
if they don't have enough evidence to prove that you committed a crime, you're innocent. Now you could have broken protocol, and there could be things that you should have done better, even
Right.
if you're not guilty. Because guilty is
True.
criminality. Guilty isn't whether you messed up. You can still be fired and not be guilty, right?
That's true. And
You
citizens don't
may
understand that comparison, though.
right. You may should be fired and
Right.
not be guilty.
Okay.
Like and there's plenty of scenarios of that occurred. But uh Sergeant Mattingly explained to me what he saw,
Mm,
right? He comes to the door, they're doing a knock warrant because they had a no knock exception. See, people
mhm.
don't know the difference between no knock exception and no knock. When you're on the SWAT team, the judge will approve a no knock exception. They
Right.
got no knock exceptions on multiple locations because Jamarcus Glover was the armed and dangerous suspect. Breonna Taylor wasn't. She
Mm,
was an accomplice, but she would consider the non-dangerous subject. So they didn't know which house he was going to be at, and they hit all these houses simultaneously. They got a tip at the last minute that Jamarcus Glover was at the trap house. So
mhm.
they sent the SWAT team to the trap house. They conducted a no-knock warrant, but Breonna Taylor's house, they determined that she wasn't. So they only send guys there that weren't tactical guys. Like Sergeant Manley wasn't even I don't even think he was on the streets at the time. He was doing something else, but he volunteered to come and just knock on the door and do a warrant. So what happened was they had a no-knock exception. So they had a warrant to go in her house. They did not use the no-knock exception. They ended up announcing. So they announced police, police. They knocked on the door. They knocked on the door. They heard a response from inside the door. Who is it? And so they decided to breach the door. And they rammed the door multiple times, yelling police, police, police. There was a
Mm.
witness on the scene that said they heard him yell police. Now
Yeah.
there was other witnesses that didn't hear him, but once you find out, they were afraid of retaliation. So anyway, they breached the door, and Sergeant Madley tells me once he goes in the door, he sees Walker, points the gun right at him, and starts to fire. Now Walker is in front of Breonna. Breonna is in the hallway, this little tight hallway. Walker is in the front of Breonna. Walker pulls out the gun, and the shootout begins. The two officers that are in the door, boom, Mattingly gets shots. He's returning fire at Walker. The other officers shooting over the top of him, returning fire at Walker. Unfortunately, what Walker did was after he shoots, he ducks down behind Breonna Taylor and into the room. Breonna Taylor is in the middle of him and the officers exchanging in the gunfire. And so
Mm.
she ended up getting tagged multiple times. Those two officers were acting within protocol and reasonable. The other officer, Hankinson or whatever, and I ended up apologizing to him because he ended up being acquitted. He wasn't charged. But once I heard
Should
his
he have been,
explanation,
should he have been charged, though? Shooting blind?
no, when I hear his explanation and I hear exactly what happened, I don't think he should have been charged. So what he is explaining is happening is that he's seeing his officer get shot. He's hearing shots fired, and he's trying to address the threat through the window. Now, I was very critical of him, and I trashed him real bad
Mm.
at first. And then I had to go back and apologize because I understand why he did what he did. You know, it's easy to say the protocol is you can't shoot through the window, you can't shoot in an obstructed view. That's not the right protocol, which I
Correct.
think he violated that protocol. But when
Absolutely.
you look at his diagnosis of the situation that's occurring, you got a guy shooting your guys, and you're in a position to try to address the threat in the position that you're in. It's almost impossible to expect for him to hear the shots going on and for him to run for cover or something. So I can understand why he did what he did. What he did wasn't what I would have done, and it wasn't protocol. And
Right.
I trashed him for it because if I would have done that on my department,
I'd have
I
got
would have been fired.
in
And
charge.
if I was on the SWAT team, I wouldn't have been charged. But I think that if I was on the SWAT team, I would have no longer been on the SWAT team, and there was a potential that I could have been fired for violating a department policies. When you look at the law, there's no law that says that because none of the shots that he shot really did anything. He shot into drywall. He didn't hit anybody. His rounds didn't penetrate, or his rounds didn't present a threat to anybody. He didn't hit Breonna. So that ended up equating to his actions. But the public don't care about that, right? They don't care about what Sergeant Madley saw because they thinking he's a white cop and he just shooting Breonna Taylor for no reason. It's like, dude, when a guy shoots you and you go down because the first shot hit him in the leg, you go down, you're going to return fire. And it was unfortunate how that dude kind of put Breonna Taylor as a little shield and let her take the rounds while he crawled and ducked through the back room. And unfortunately, she took all the rounds that were supposed to hit him. She was taking them on his behalf,
right?
From what I've seen. But I think that the public, that's why I exist, right? Because I try to give a perspective, and people don't have to agree with me because they can go look at the video for themselves. I try to give a perspective based on training and experience, and also sometimes these officers call me and they talk to me about what happened. So I get a little insight, and sometimes I can't say that I talked to them,
right,
because I can't give it up. Like in Uvalde, I know things about Uvalde that a lot of people don't know because I got people,
right,
all the way from the initial response through the shooting. Yeah. I know exactly what happened because I know people that was there. But anyway, but I think that there is things that we can improve on in policing. There's no doubt in my mind. But like I said, brother, like people are talking to you because they see a big scenario that they want me to kiss the rear end of the media, and I don't. And so they say, Brandon, I always defend officers.
Right.
There's plenty of videos where I'm trashing officers. Plenty of videos where I'm trashing officers. But the thing with my channel is that I don't go out and find bad policing and then make review videos. I make review videos on controversial situations in which I feel that the officers are unduly represented.
Okay.
Or like they're wrongly represented, right? Okay. And so Laquan McDonald was a big case. I did a video on that. Old girl that shot Walker with the taser instead of what's his name? She shot the kid with the taser, the gun instead of the taser. That was a big case.
Yeah.
And I had to trash her on it because that's what it is.
Right.
Even the Uvalde thing, I got to give context to Uvalde, and some officers are gonna have to be held accountable for the missteps that they did that weren't tactically reasonable. I make videos like this all the time. It's just that I don't see every police interaction. If a police officer does something wrong and goes to jail, I don't need to make a video about it because the officer was wrong. He was prosecuted. That's gonna happen.
Yeah.
We arrested guys on our department that did things wrong. Unfortunately, we can't play God. There's guys that get on the police department that are bad when they get there.
That's true.
And then there's guys who are good and they go bad.
That's very true. And I think that's another thing too. I was asking people what kind of questions would they want me to ask you, and one of them is, and they asked me this too, and I have to tell them they don't understand how corruption works. They don't understand, to your point, that officers start good, they end bad, they're corruptible. I wasn't a corruptible person. And so if they were bad officers, they did not hang out with me, they didn't associate with me. They tend to attract other bad officers. And sometimes you're a good officer and you're put in a situation where, oh man, this drug dealer got a lot of money on him. I might just skim some other. The next, you're down a dangerous path. This leads us to, and I know I can't keep you too long, but things like the blue wall of silence and things of that nature. And I try to explain to people that, again, you have bad people, and sometimes it's 2, 3, 4. Sometimes it could be a supervisor. It comes in all different forms and shapes and sizes. So to what you were saying, you've seen corrupt officers in your department. You've seen them arrested. Can you explain to the people quickly, like what that looked like? Because some people believe that hey, have you ever turned in a bad officer? I said, no, but I've seen them arrested in my department. I've stood next to them. What are your thoughts on that?
So yeah, this is a very interesting question because the blue wall of silence thing is very weird to me because and I know.
Right.
Neither one of us like bad officers.
Correct.
I would never come. Bro, I got a pension. I got a family. I got kids. I got endeavors on the police department. I'm not going there. I'm not finna lie for you. Exactly. You're one guy. You're gonna go to jail if you're doing something wrong. You ain't finna. I'm not finna lie for you, bro. And your supervisor definitely not finna lie for you. I mean, generally speaking.
Correct.
The people that know policing know when you get higher up, they throw you under the bus and they back over you.
Yep.
And so you could be doing the right thing. Your upper command, they're gonna throw you under the bus. So the blue wall of silence is a very interesting concept. Our police officers tend to be more biased towards their brothers and sisters. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. If you commit, like for me, if you commit a crime, I can't help you, bro.
Right.
I can't help you. But if you hit the guy, if you hit the guy 2 or 3 more times than you should have, I'll tell that you did it.
Right.
But my perspective on you doing it makes sense to me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because he the bad guy and you the good guy.
Correct.
And so I'm not going to lie on you, but my perspective is going to be different. My perspective is going to see the police officer whom I know personally. And my response is in good faith because I believe the man is in good faith. Just like your own family members. Ain't nobody going to go out and trash nobody at a funeral. No, you're not. You know he was a drug dealer. You know he's bad. He was beating his wife. You ain't gonna say it at a funeral. So,
and are you gonna turn him in? Right? Are we gonna turn your family member in who's a criminal? Right?
Right. But the thing is, if your family member commits murder, okay, you ain't got no choice, man. You gotta. But are you gonna go through and say all this crazy stuff about your family member? Your tendency subconsciously is for you. You're probably not gonna just drag them. Right. And so with policing, officers probably give the benefit of the doubt to their other officers more so than people want to admit to it. But nobody's going to cover for a criminal, man. That's just not going to happen. We arrested a guy in our department. And this is how corruption happens, and there's no way of telling. Every FTO I had that went through the process with me, well-respected guys, great police record, former military, they all were clean cut. They took me through the system. I was a great officer. They trained me how to be a good officer. We had a guy straight out of the military, clean record, squared away, boots shine every day, clean cut, face shaved. Yes, sir. He had a beautiful wife and family. This guy made it through the academy, FTO, flying colors. Like I said, he was a veteran, former military. This guy had some of the raving reviews out of any recruit that has come through our academy. My FTO couldn't say nothing but great things about it. Right. Everybody thought this guy was the next really good guy. This guy took a prostitute. It's a movie theater and the parking garage is dead. Nobody's using it. And there's no lights in there. So at night it's completely black. This fool took a prostitute down in there who was arresting. He coerced her, raped her. I don't know if she said yes. It doesn't matter. He had sex with this woman. She run from him. She broke loose and ran from him. He gets on the radio and he says, I got one running. Now, when you say that on the radio, everybody's flying. You know, everybody want to get in on the action.
Right.
But he did something weird that obviously alerted every officer that responded. He said, I got one detained. I'm en route to jail. Wait a minute, dude. You got one running. You don't call out that you got them detained. You don't call out that they're 10:15. Our detention is 10:15.
Yeah, same here.
They're in the car. You don't say none of that. You on the way to jail? No officers were able to respond yet. So that was very bizarre. He gets to the jail. We doing a booking center. We have a bathroom just for police officers. You got to ask the booker for the key. You get the key. You go into one restroom for cops. He takes the condom he used. He puts it in the trash can, not the toilet, the trash can in that bathroom. And and people don't understand this too. Every complaint we investigate.
Right.
And then we end up yelling that most of it is lies.
Right.
This girl says he raped me, right? And so everybody in there is like, whatever, but we still have to investigate it.
Mm-hmm.
They investigate it. We have GPS trackers on our computers. We have GPS tracker on our radios. And then we have all the other stuff, all the other trackers from whatever. They go back and review, and everything she said was correct. They went and did an investigation. They found a condom in the toilet.
Damn.
All of the above. This dude got arrested. He was fired from the police department. I was a PIO when all this happened. Okay. I'm telling this story to let people know that why you don't turn into bad cops. Nobody knew that this guy was capable of doing what he did. Let me give you a scenario of a bad cop that everybody knew was bad. And it's almost I'm going to give you two.
All right, do it.
A bad cop that everybody knew was bad. And another cop that I'll give you three people. I'm going to give you three people.
Go ahead. Yeah.
This one cop, I don't know how he started, but I know when I was on the department, he always would, they call him the rubber band man. He was always stretching the law. He was always this close to violating somebody's constitutional rights. He was always this close to using excessive force. Everybody hated him.
Yep.
He goes on a rogue assignment where he goes to an apartment. He don't check out on the radio. Nobody knows he's there. What he tries to do is he tries to do stuff, and if he hit the fan, he walk away from it. Nobody knows. If he need it, he'll call on the radio. Oh, I got one running. You like, dude, you never checked out on traffic or nothing. Like, what you mean? So he's in this apartment complex on the 11th floor. He's trying to do this secret, trying to catch this crackhead without going on the radio. Ended up going south. She runs and jumps over the balcony on the 11th floor. She's hanging off. We had a hostage negotiation response. Anyway, come to find out this food never checked out. Now he gets in trouble for it, but they can't fire him over it.
Right.
He literally does this all the time, but they can't fire him over it because policy dictates that you have to give remedial. Yeah. Like, so you violate a policy, you have to give an officer a chance to do remedial. Then you have to give an officer a chance. Then you have to write up in his PPR.
And citizens don't know this part of the job.
It works to the benefit of good officers, and it works to the benefit of bad officers.
Yes.
So a good officer, you may make a mistake. They got to write you up. They got to give you remedial. They have to document in your PPR. Then they have to submit it to a supervisor, and then then they have to go through a review of whether or not you should be fired, you should be put on admin leave, or you should get your job back. Is training going to help you? That helps guys like you and I. That if we make a mistake or we have a bad day, we can recover from it without losing our pension and career.
Correct.
Somebody like him, all of this minutia, but it ruins his reputation, right? Because people somehow think these guys are. No, his reputation is gone. He'll never be a supervisor. And nobody ever want to 84 him.
Yep.
He can't do any investigative units because his reputation is bad. He got too many write-ups. He can never advance on policing. And then what happens is he finally did something off duty where he lied on his cards. So he was saying he was off duty, but he was on duty. Then he got on duty pay for being off duty, something like that. They caught him.
Yeah.
Now let me give you another officer. He's probably still working today. This guy he was in the military, and he's a killer, right? And the guy has no remorse. Like, he's not attached to reality. Like, he could kill a person and wouldn't care.
Right.
He had a very dark side of him. He knew how to fight. He's jiu-jitsu trained or whatever. So he literally walks around with these nerdy glasses on. He's a nerdy white guy with a buzz cut, skinny guy. But the guy has killed people in the military, and the guy has no conscience for humans. I don't think he does, to be honest. He is a weirdo. Yeah. He rode his bike to the academy 25 miles each way every day to the academy. The guy is insane. However, on paper, he does his job like he's supposed to.
Right.
But I know, and other officers know, that if that guy had a chance to kill somebody, he will. Now, is that against the law? No.
Oh.
But I don't think that is a good officer.
Correct.
Because this is the thing. When that lady pulled a knife on me, I could have killed her. But I didn't want to kill her. He would have killed her.
And he'd been justified.
He would have been justified, and he wouldn't have lost any sleep. There's another situation where if it comes to using force, he will use force against you every single time he's eligible to use force against you, and he will put you down. And guys have tried him, and they have lost miserably. Now, me, I am willing to understand a person and try to talk to them. Sir, please, don't do this. You don't want to go hands-on with me. Trust me, when the rest of the guys come, it's going to be bad for you. Put your hands behind your back, in a place where the guy's not confrontational and I can talk him down.
Right.
This officer is no talking down. Put your hands behind your back. He's going to go through the force continuum just like he's supposed to. And when it's time to put them hands on you, he's going to put them hands on you.
Fact.
The guys, and so you have guys like that.
Yes.
Whose citizens are at risk, like these fools that go out and they do this with police officers. Right. He will shoot you. He got into a shooting, completely justified. He's running after the guy. The guy turns and shoots at him and the officer, and they blaze him. And he lived. The guy lived, but they shot him. And when you hear him talk about it, he don't care.
Right.
he could have killed that guy and he'd have laughed over his grave.
Mm.
So you got people like that, but how do you get a man fired because he's weird, but he's never breaking the law and he's never
Correct.
violating constitutional rights?
Correct.
And I'll give you another guy who recovered. This guy was a great officer, model officer, FTO. He got into an officer involved shooting and it messed him up, right? It was a justified shooting. He was at distance. He had the rifle. The lady rose the gun up, tried to shoot an officer, and he shot and killed her. He needed help. He went downhill, man. He lost his wife. He lost his kids. Me and him almost had a fight in the briefing. He was losing himself, right? Everybody saw him. He went to a call with some black people, and this didn't go well with the black people.
Correct.
2 guys. He ended up showing up by himself. And on the police department, you don't show up by yourself unless it's a life and death active shooter situation. You wait for your 84 so you can have an adequate response to people.
Correct.
Gets to the call by himself. He got these 2 guys there. One guy has a peg leg. It was like a man with a gun or something, a man with a knife. So he's ordering him to the ground. The guy with the peg leg is saying, I can't get down my leg. I can't bend my leg. A jaded officer who just got into a shooting, whose mind ain't right, he forced the guy down. He throws him on the ground. The guy's grandmother and family begin to come out the unit right in front of where this happened at. He pulls a gun out right on grandma's face. Now, is that the right thing to do? No. Is that a gray line justification? Because now he's dealing with 2 people and a bunch of people come out the house attacking him? Maybe. One of the SWAT guys got to him, grabbed him, and drug him off of the scene and ripped his for at least 5 minutes. A bunch of officers got together because citizens complained on him, and then there was internal complaint. And I was a part of testifying against him internally. So a bunch of officers got together and we said, hey, man, the guy's struggling, man. He's going downhill. He almost fought me. He got this incident with the black people at the apartment complex. He lost his wife. He's a danger. He's going downhill. They ended up getting the officer counseling, which is free. We provide free counseling officers. He recovered. He got married. He's a better officer. So these things happen. They're not just cut and dry, man. Just imagine if we didn't catch him and he got to a point, a guy pulled a gun, or a guy maybe didn't pull a gun, he shot and killed a guy.
Right.
Just imagine the other officer that we can't fire. Just imagine if he gets to a point and there's a kid that pull a gun on him and he justify and he shoot and kill the kid. And then another guy pull a gun on him, he shoot and kill that guy. He's not talking, he's not holding back, and he don't care. And somebody interview him after he killed a guy and he show no remorse.
Right.
The public is gonna be outraged, man. And then, like, think about it. At all the officers I knew, hundreds. That's just 3 people that I can name that's not doing the right thing. Everybody else, bro, I would put my life and my family's life in their hands. All of these other people going to work every day, speaking life to people just like I was, all of these guys are doing such a tremendous job as police officers, inspiring every day. You get a couple of them that's weird, that gets weird. Chauvin probably was one of those guys. He had those use of force, those complaints that never was validated. One, maybe because people lied on him. Listen, I don't think you can get that many use of force complaints and complaints from the public,
right?
And it not be nothing, right?
Correct.
I never got any official complaint. I got people that lied on me. Like one lady said I lied, whatever, and then they investigated and it's nothing. I had no formal complaints, but I understand if a cop get a few. You may blow up on somebody and cuss them out, and then they complain on you,
which is understandable. And even with that, I've had cases like that in my department. For my academy, same thing. We had a chick complain on a guy. She showed up with the semen on her shirt and was like, "Test this," and they took the shirt, tested it. They had vice units after them. Same problem. So we see it. But it's not, it's definitely, man, this is a multi-layered issue, and it's not an easy one to address. People would ask, and I'm gonna close with these last 2. I know we gotta bounce. People want to know, how do we filter them out? How do we prevent them from getting in the profession? in my academy, was the first academy class, I had 50 plus officers. I knew right away. I came from working in the hospital into policing. I knew right away, just looking at about 15 of them, they had no business in there. But I remember hearing from the academy instructor saying they don't want us to get rid of anybody, right? They were failing exams. They were failing shooting qualifications. They kept giving them pass after pass because they needed the bodies. So it's quantity over quality. The citizens then end up taking the brunt of that. The officers take the brunt of that when they come out here. And we had a guy in my department, he shot a naked man and killed him. He was going through a mental health crisis, shot, and the man was out running around, he was naked. The officer shot and killed him. And so he got convicted, of course, and he was a white officer. And so again, these things, officers are held accountable. There are some cases that are on a larger scale where it looks tricky, right? A lot of things looks a little funny. It looks like there's some funny business that goes on sometimes. And just because an officer is not held accountable doesn't mean the officer wasn't wrong. And then I always tell people, though, when it comes to, are we looking at this from a moral perspective or a legal perspective? Morally is subjective. We all have our own perception of what is right and wrong. But if we're examining it by the law is very clear what officers can and cannot do. And we do get a little leeway. And I want to ask you this, qualified immunity. This is a hot button subject. I think this is a good one to end on. This is reference. One, how do we filter out bad officers? And then qualified immunity. Can it be adjusted? Should it be removed completely? What does that look like? What is your thoughts? How do we fix that aspect of it?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head when it comes to academy. See, people want diversity, but then they don't want the reality of diversity. They want women's rights, but then they don't want the reality of women's rights. Right. There's plenty of women that were in the academy that had no business being cops, but they don't want to. But they want to get more women on the police department. They want to do this. There was people some black people that shouldn't have been on the police department because they weren't qualified, but they forced these people through. Now, can they do the job? The basic write a case report,
yes,
respond to it, hope you never get in a shooting. Can they do? Yes, they can do. They can write. They can be a pencil pusher that sit on the side waiting for a call to come out. They can't proactively police. They cannot get into a shooting. They can't get into a stressful situation, or they're gonna pee to bed. They're gonna need somebody like you and me to show up at the scene with them so they don't completely melt down and crumble. So, but the thing is that what is that worth, people?
Right.
You defund them. You don't have adequate to pay. Nobody's want to do that for $35,000 a year.
Right.
Nobody's want to do that for 50. Nobody want to do that if you don't have no great benefits and pension. So what you're gonna have to do is you have to raise the bar. That means, and people ain't gonna want to hear this,